Okay, let's get going. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. It happens to be Tuesday, November the 15th, believe it or not, 2022. Wow. And I'll call this meeting to order now at 6:31 p.m. and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
Quorum is present, we shall proceed. The invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Shelby, and I'll lead us in the pledges, so would everyone please stand.
Tonight, may we learn from yesterday's mistakes and challenges. May we focus on the tasks at hand, use reason to guide our decisions, and take joy in our work. And may we always increase the promise for opportunity and the hopes those in our city might have through wise decisions being made on their behalf this evening. Let us welcome the challenges of the future we see before us and be undaunted by those yet to be known. The strength of Universal City is in its residents, city officials, and hardworking city employees. May we be mindful of the unity we have in our single yet diverse human family with common values and shared needs. May we work together towards a cleaner environment, safer neighborhoods, stronger schools, and a viable economy with sustained employment opportunities for those who seek them. May we provide for well-trained and equipped firefighters, emergency responders, law enforcement, public works, military, and may we never forget their sacrifices. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, thank you. We have a wonderful attendance this evening. I'm really proud of it. I think some of it is going to happen in a minute with some of you that are here in attendance, but this is always welcome. We just are really glad that our citizens decided they would like to come and see what happens in their city government. So, first item we have on the agenda this evening, there is going to be a special award presentation, and I will ask, this is related to a recent event that we had here, so I would ask Ms. Lori Putt, please come forward and make that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm going to stand right here because I do want to speak to the audience as well. I've been coming here for 12 years now, talking about Parks Partners and things that we've done since we've been a part of it. We've done very large and very small events. We've built the dog park and had our fingers in all the parks throughout the years, and now recently we've done the pickleball through different little fundraisers. But 6 years ago, we had a fall fair day that lasted 4 hours. We had 100 pumpkins, and it's turned into a month-long event, and thousands of pumpkins. And it's changed the face of how Parks Partners has had to deal with it. So we have formed a subcommittee because it's just too much for one small group to work with. And I'm going to introduce you tonight to our patch director, Ollie Schaefer, and she's going to explain to you some of the changes we've made. But one of the best things I think that's come from it is Parks Partners started off working just with parks. And now, through this miraculous 6 years, this entire community has benefited from this event. And we're very, very proud of it. So I'd like to introduce Ollie to you. And Ollie, come on up and hand out all the goodies.
All right. It was our best pumpkin patch ever this year. We broke records. We had a 37% increase in our total sales. We are sharing tonight $42,070 with 19 different nonprofits. We also added some popular community events this year. We had WAGs on Wednesdays when we had Homes for the Homeless come out, and the Judson FFA and the Pug Rescue Group. So that was a really popular. We added, started having the librarian come out on Fridays and do story time, which was a huge success with the stay-at-home moms and the little kids. We had a packed pumpkin patch every Friday morning. But I think the most popular one was the coffee with the community on Thursdays. Every Thursday, for all 3 Thursdays, we had fire, police, people from City Hall, some public works guys came by, some city councilmen, and a lot of community members that we knew and were new to the area. So I think we had over 40 or every time, or close to 40 every time, and at least it was a big success. So we're really grateful for that. One other thing we want to recognize is that we had over our student volunteers accumulated over 210 community service hours between all the different schools and honor society and different groups. So that was a big increase. We couldn't do it without our volunteers. It's bottom line, which is why we use the nonprofit groups to support the patch, because we can't run it ourselves. So without delaying, we're going to go through the groups that could come here tonight. We're going to present them their checks real quick. We're going to start with the Firemen's Association. So I don't know who's going to come. Captain Hubbard. And
Bring the guys and girls.
Come on, guys.
yeah.
Bring them all.
The Heroes Weekend was our first opening weekend, and when fire and police had all the trucks out and had all the activities going, and so the sales that weekend benefited the Firemen's Association, and so we're gonna, who do we present the, give it to you, I guess, you're right by me, so there you go.
Would you tell them what your association, what the money goes to in our community?
So it's to help the community. We have after a structure fire, we'll fund the community. We typically on Thanksgiving and Christmas will fund families during those events. And so that's the biggest portion of that, is to support our community.
Thanks. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Go to work.
The next one is Friends of the Library, and I think we have Miss Lynn here. Lynn was also one of our daily patch volunteers. She's here to accept this on behalf of Friends of the Library. We're very grateful for your help. Phil Vaughan is going to collect it for the Olympia PTO.
Yeah, I'm not worthy, but I will collect it.
So we're grateful for their help. They had the biggest school night that we've ever had was Olympia this year.
The parking lot looked like a
The
weekend.
parking lot looked like a weekend. It was huge, so we're really grateful. Thank you.
School will be here.
The Citizens Police Academy also worked multiple weekends for different things. They helped our parking every weekend, which
Stand up, Paul.
would be a disaster if we
Stand up, Paul.
didn't have their help, so we're really grateful. Here you go.
Look, Mama. Thank you.
Next we have Homes for the Homeless. Was one of our Wags for Wednesdays. We had lots of people come with dogs and had a lot of fun with that, so we're grateful for the help that we get from you guys. And Sherry's also one of our daily volunteers.
Daily patch volunteers, so is Lynn.
Oh, this was the other one I was supposed to give to her.
Oh.
We have Ross Wallace, our very own retired fire chief, and Mike Miller with the Randolph Field Education Foundation, who come out every Thursday with a lot of muscle to help us clean up the patch.
Not theirs.
Not their muscle. Well, they did this muscle. So here you go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Another Saturday favorite is the UC Spicy Ketchup robotics team.
Come on, guys.
Who pretty much run the patch without any of us there themselves. They are a fantastic group to have. They come every year, and I guess it's Javier. Are you going to come up,
Come on,
Javier?
Javier.
You mean just give it to the kids? Okay.
I'll get a picture of you.
Here you go. There you guys go. Thank you.
Thank you.
They were one of the top earners.
They were, that's right.
Yeah.
And the last group is another top earner. The Schaefer boys are gonna collect the check for their homeschool CrossFit. Come on.
Come on.
I'm pretty sure that these 3 kids could run the whole pumpkin patch on their own.
These 3
From running the
kids,
register, setting it up, tearing it down, greeting people, throwing away rotten pumpkins, climbing some trees.
this year they wore staff
So-
shirts.
That's right. So there's a check for your CrossFit. So Lori made sure to tell me that she wants me to add at the very end that we are glad it's over. We are certainly looking forward to next year, seeing what next year brings. So thank you to the whole community and everybody here for supporting us, because it couldn't happen without it. And the whole community has definitely benefited from it.
Thanks, Holly.
Well, wow, what another great successful event, and that just shows how close-knit our group is in Universal City, and we're really proud, and thank you all that participated. It's a great worthy cause, and it's an opportunity for us to recognize and to allow some of the volunteer groups to participate and reap the benefits sometimes. So thank you all for coming this evening. We look forward to a bigger and better and more fantastic
First year we
next year.
didn't even make $42,000.
Right.
It's growing on me.
It's grown.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, we do have another proclamation, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Najarian to read that proclamation. I think you'll, after he reads it, I can embellish it a little bit, but I think it's very important for you to listen to this because it's very special, especially to communities like our size. Paul?
Small Business Saturday Proclamation. Whereas the government of Universal City, Texas celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small business all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And whereas Universal City, Texas supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday.
Okay, now therefore I, John Williams, the Mayor of Universal City, Texas, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And as all of you know, this is the backbone and what makes our city prosper the way it does is our small businesses. We have a few large businesses, but by and large, we call it the mom and pops. They really make our city what it is today. So this is why we're really proud to be able to make this proclamation today. So support your small businesses in your communities, whether at Universal City or others, but we're very proud of the businesses we have in UC. So thank you very much. Let's move on to our item on consent agenda, tab number 8. All matters are listed, as you can see, considered to be routine by council, being acted by a single motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, then that item will be removed and from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. So there are actually 2 items this evening. One is to consider the minutes of the Tuesday, November 1st meeting, And item B is discuss and consider the ordinance 370-Q-2022. It's related to International Property Maintenance Code accordingly, and it's our second reading. So those are the two items on the consent agenda. Anybody want
Move to approve.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Najarian, second by Councilmember Neville. Any discussion on that? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the consent agenda for the approval, it's currently listed as I voted yes, but then just after that, it's that I voted no because I abstained. So propose that the minutes be corrected to reflect that.
Okay. Does everyone understand?
Sorry, the state votes.
Hang on, we may have some clarification here.
According to the charter, the abstention is the nay vote.
That is correct.
Abstention is enabled.
Yes.
And so the way it was written in the minutes was correct. Okay.
No, the way that it was written in the minutes is that I voted for approval of the consent
You
agenda,
abstained, which is.
but that I also abstained and resulted in a no vote.
Okay.
So you voted twice.
So according to the minutes, I voted twice.
So we'll make that change that you were an abstention, which means a no.
Yes, sir.
With that change, is there any other discussion then? All right, let's call for the vote then, please, Chris.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby. Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Let's move on now to our citizens to be heard. This is, again, as you know, an opportunity for citizens to address council on issues or concerns that they may have. And we don't take any action on it, but we certainly welcome the input from our citizens. So we've had 3 that signed up this evening. So I'll call you up in the order that you signed up. First, Mrs. Suzanne Canoyer.
Good evening, gentlemen. I always believe in giving credit where credit is due. I want to thank you and the Universal City people who came out and voted for the Judson ISD bond. It passed both propositions handily, and we are so grateful for the community's support. We are now going to be able to do things that will help our students, our families, our faculty, to make our students and everyone else more safe, provide updated facilities and new facilities to help ease the overcrowding. And hopefully it's going to cut down on some of the traffic issues that we've been having at some campuses as well. So again, I always want to bring greetings from the board and say thank you. We truly appreciate everything that the council has done. And I particularly want to call out Mr. Goolsby for his lead in heading up the committee that really worked to get the word out and get the vote out. So again, thank you. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate it very much. Very successful issue, and I wish Judson the best and that school district, and lots of much needed things happening. I'm glad that the citizens agreed that was important. Okay, next individual that's signed this evening, I have to unfortunately tell you I cannot read the name, but it's on Northeastern 410, and it's about 1604. And if you would just please come on.
No, that was an accident. I thought.
Oh, that was an accident.
Sheet.
Okay, I got you. You're part of the presentation. All right, very good. Okay, and then the other individual signed this evening is Mr. Bernard Rubel.
Gentlemen Council, first of all, I really enjoyed the Veterans Day parade. I would like to point out just actually 2 issues associated with the parade. This is actually the first time I've seen the back parking lot gate of the Baptist Church locked, and it essentially prevented parking in their facility. And also, when the police were trying to get people to disperse before the parade because of the problem of people trying to get out. And I'm wondering whether it might be made a point to coordinate with the Baptist Church on perhaps allowing some access for parking in their facility to accommodate the crowds for the parade. Number 2 is noticeably absent, again this year, was a member of the Universal City group from the parade, and that is, and I'm going to refer this actually to the city manager again, that is the parade truck. The parade truck. We have 1960 parade truck that's been on the books for a long time, being maintained for a long time. But I've yet to see it in the parade. So basically, and the only reason why I brought that up past informally was when we were looking at budgets, why do we have a 1960s vintage truck that doesn't serve a purpose? So if it's a parade truck, put it in the parade, okay? The other thing that I'd like to do is congratulate the city on getting the street bond issue through. We will, however, try to hold the city accountable for the 100 streets, essentially, that were listed on the docket for repair. So basically, so that the residents have been oversold in voting for the street bond issue. So I'll be very curious of the years to find how that progresses. That being said, it may be time to consider allowing Randy to have more time to spend on street projects, and I respectfully submit to this council that it may be time to consider splitting off some of Randy's responsibilities, particularly the parks responsibility, to some other person. And then finally,
You're good.
I don't see the time.
You're good. You're good.
I'm sorry?
You're good.
Okay. And then finally, sir, and gentlemen, essentially, I remind council that when the budget review was done earlier this year, the city proposed $25,000 in tuition fee, free tuition fees essentially for employees, $17,000 in travel budgets for expenses for just one department, and yet did not identify the need for a full-time city clerk or relief for the city clerk. Okay, so basically, I hope that the deputy city clerk, whoever that will be a person who is able to compete openly with their credentials. I know there's a provision within the city to hire within and prevent going outside for interviews, and I hope the council will try to get the best person for the job rather than essentially a person that we know. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Appreciate it. All right. Those are the only individuals that signed up this evening. Did anyone else want to address council that didn't have a chance to fill out the form? Okay, good. We'll proceed then. Let's move on then to our business for this evening. We have two presentations. The first one is under tab number B. It's presentation of the revised concept plan for Loop 1604 and Byrd PUD. So I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you. Michael, you want to do an introduction?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the first PUD concept plan presentation that we have tonight is for Westboro Boulevard and 1604. They did come before you back in January of this year to make their presentation for a mixed-use planned unit development. And the petitioner is here tonight to basically provide you with an update and get some feedback because we do have two new council members who have not heard this presentation before. Kim and I and other staff members are here to answer questions, as well as the petitioner. I'll hand it off to them.
Who's on first?
I'm on first. Here. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Rob Killen, land use attorney at the law firm of Killen, Griffin, and Paramount. Our address is 10101 Reunion Place. Appreciate the opportunity to present on the proposed planning and development tonight. Before I get started, most of you have seen this before, so we have a lengthy presentation that will be concise and respectful of your time. You have other things to do this evening. But I do want to stop for a second and highlight Kim and Michael. Your staff is just amazing. We do work in most of the cities in the area, but highly professional, very helpful in guiding us through this process. The planning and development process in Universal City is more complicated than in some places, but it's really a good system in that we get to present a concept plan to you first, get feedback before you actually take action. So you're not taking action tonight, you're providing feedback. And like I said, you have seen this before. So what I'd like to do is give you a brief overview, show you the things that most of you have already seen. I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the team to talk about some of the things that have changed since you saw it last. So here's the property, there's Byrd, there's 1604 to the south, undeveloped tract. It's currently zoned commercial, C5 and C4. We're proposing a planned unit development to allow for a mixture of uses, commercial, warehousing, storage, retail, and multifamily. So we're going to have 6 phases in the revised plan: commercial, self-storage, multifamily, more commercial warehouse, and then some parkland. This shows you how it lays out. We'll go into more detail on a phase-by-phase basis in just a second. This is the multifamily piece. The apartments that are being proposed, and I'll show you those again in a second, are about 12 acres of property, 291 units, market rate, built to the city's R5 standards, which are multifamily standards, with some exceptions. We'll have 5-foot setbacks for the accessory buildings, not for the primary buildings. Density of 25 units per acre, steel fencing permitted, and then the siding products. I'm going to caution you, I am just a lawyer, I'm not an architect, so the architect for the project could not be here tonight, or the multifamily developer. His kids have strep and flu. I'm glad he's not here tonight spreading whatever germs he's getting in his household. So you're stuck with me talking about this, but like I said, most of you heard the presentation on the architecture and design. This shows how the multifamily lays out. There's a dog park, and you probably see it on your individual screens as well as a big screen. A dog park in the middle. You've got the units kind of laid out with apartments, clubhouse, kind of standard. This is the important thing. This is what it's going to look like. They spent a lot of time, very thoughtful about the design. We talked through this in terms of materials quite a bit last time. And again, when you adopt the floodplain, when it's finally adopted, the materials will be listed in the floodplain, so there will be a lot more detail in what you finally approve. Again, just getting feedback on this project right now. Another view of the apartments. So that gives you a good idea. I'll shift to the commercial in just a second, but again, this is something that most of you saw, most of you liked. We spent a lot of time talking through it, and nothing has changed on the apartment component. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Mike. I think you're up next. Talk about what has been revised since the last time we were here. And so we have a little clipper, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. My name is Michael Myler. I'm with Alamo Storage. We're the landowner, and we'll be the developer for the hard corner commercial drive-through, as well as the self-storage facility. My wife Lisa and I own and operated Alamo Storage in the San Antonio area now for about a decade, and so we're looking to expand our business into Universal City. The first piece, the smallest piece that we're working with is the 1 acre on the hard corner of West Byrd Boulevard and Loop 1604. Initially, when we presented those of you that saw the plan in January, we had a much larger frontage portion. After some additional research and looking at the long-term viability of the project, based on traffic flow from the off-ramp 1604, we determined that land north of Byrd Boulevard would be best suited for retail, and really the value is just in the corner. And so what we've laid out is a 1 acre parcel on the corner that would support a dual lane drive-through, and we've given some consideration, as you see the adjoining parcel in lot 2, to potential for stacking the drive-through rather than running into backup on 1604, and the entrance on Byrd Boulevard provides access as well through the parking lot to support the 2 lanes. We don't have a tenant in mind for that. What you see drawn in there is a 2-lane drive-through from a coffee shop. It just so happens that the architect who is developing, or who is doing the self-storage project, the other thing he does is coffee shop drive-throughs for a major chain. But we like, we've highlighted some favorites and taken a poll and have come up with a couple of local names that we like better than maybe some of the national brands, but not to be discussed here, I don't want to belabor the point. The second lot that we're working with is a 2-acre parcel that's also on the frontage of Loop 1604, and this is what we're proposing for development of a multi-story self-storage facility. We've done a fair amount of research, and my wife's helped me a lot with the feasibility study, both internally in our company, as well as hiring a well-respected national research firm that does market studies and feasibility study for self-storage. And so there's a lot of first-generation ambient drive-up garage unit type of storage available in the market. There is not, within the traditional trade area, 1, 3, 5 mile range, there is not much of the Class A climate control storage available. And so the project that we're proposing is going to be a multi-story Class A climate controlled storage facility that sits on the 2 acres. So these are representative samples taken from the architect that's designing our project has designed 3 of the samples here, and the other 3 you see are from the short list of general contractors. There are 2 general contractors here in the San Antonio area that have a national footprint with self-storage construction, and so we anticipate using one of those 2 for the final product. So depending on the ultimate design, it will be, this gives a representative sample of what the finished product is going to look like. Really just to make the delineation, it's not multi-acres of garage doors on driveways. It's a multi-story building with some architectural detail to set it apart from just being a square box. And more importantly, it's going to be a climate-controlled facility as opposed to the ambient temperature garage type storage that will let people store their household goods in an environment that actually protects them. So we can see kind of the samples of what we're doing here. I'm not sure we want questions now or questions that like face specific, or if you want.
If there's somebody that has a question while you're discussing it, we'll entertain it. But if not, just go ahead and proceed.
So the next piece that we're going to talk about is the development of lots 4 and 5 into a concrete tilt wall warehouse. And Ross, if you want to. We'll let the experts address that as you flip.
Yeah, sure. Going back to the slide. Yeah, I'm Ross Owens. I'm from Multo Properties. It's a Chicago-based developer, family-owned, developed in 2008. We have a large footprint across the U.S. of developing light industrial tilt-wall warehouses for tenants. California, Chicago, Texas is a market we've been in the last several years. We have about 2.8 million square feet in Texas, in the DFW, Austin, Georgetown markets, as well as Houston, and we're looking into San Antonio. We have some experience with San Antonio, or I do for a different developer, but we're excited about it and we like the area. And so as a whole, we've done about 20 million square feet of development of tilt wall buildings. And lots 4 and 5, we're doing a planned speculative development. We don't have any tenants in mind right now, but it would be composed of tilt wall construction, some articulation, reveals, anodized aluminum storefront entries like you typically see in these type of developments. We don't have any renderings, but these are some other past projects we've done in Houston and DFW. The earth tone colors. And that's pretty much what we're looking at right now.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. The first one, I've got a little bit different mapping than you have here. So on the first, anybody wants to answer, lot 1 and lot 2, the retail and the storage, is that like about 3.5 acres there? Is that combined?
Yeah, right at 3 acres combined, so.
I missed it on there.
Okay,
I don't have
I can
here.
look back up to the master plan and
I apologize.
No, that's good. So in the largest, most prominent, you see the multifamily in in the red. And then if you look at the yellow is approximately 1 acre on the hard corner. And then in the light blue is 2 acres for the self-storage. The building footprint will be about 40,000 square feet, and then the driveways for the fire lane and the fire apparatus access.
Okay, well, since you're there, my next question was going to be, and comment was, this self-storage was all going to be climate controlled, which I think is fantastic because we don't have enough of that here in the community. There's a big need for that, actually. But then I'm going to move, about how many units are going to be there? It's like probably about 3 stories?
Right, so the facility, we haven't done the final unit mix on it, and we do anticipate blocked from view on the frontage road, the potential for maybe a few drive-up ambient units on the backside that would be not visible, just because sometimes there's a mix of goods that for a limited number, but 10%, small portion. But the bulk of it, yes, is going to be the climate controlled.
10% regular storage, 9%?
Rough numbers, yeah, rough. Just a small amount on the perimeter that's not, like I say, not prominent doors. So the bulk is designed to be climate controlled. That's what the market needs here. The market is actually properly supplied for the ambient drive-up type of storage. The biggest shortfall in Universal City from our research is the climate controlled storage. And so the buildings, again, kind of representative designs from what our architect has designed and the 2 leading general contractors have built. These are some samples that we scroll through here too. So that there might be some ambient on the first, and the ones you see here have some ambient storage on the first floor, and then just on the exterior, and then the interior of the first floor, as well as the entirety of the second and third floor, are climate-controlled storage facilities. And so that's the plan. Elevator access and all the proper requirements in there.
And I don't know if the other gentleman up, my map here shows building A and B in the back there. It shows both of them say car stalls and truck stalls. So, and what you had shown and what he explained seemed to be different to me.
On the
warehousing
on the warehousing buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
My map here says building A and B, both would say car stalls, truck stalls. So when I was looking at it, I was thinking there was going to be like boats and RVs and.
No.
This is general warehousing.
Okay.
It's
yeah, but then when I saw the pictures, which I was like, okay, that's totally different than what I've written there.
Yeah, I think that's for the truck court to get the trucks in versus the cars for
product in and out of the truck court where the overhead doors are for storage, and then the cars are for employees.
Okay, yeah, because it's on the top of the building, it said truck stalls. I was like, okay.
Just to clarify, we've got the self-storage area and then we've got the warehousing, which are 2 separate uses. So we want to mix.
Yes. Yeah. So we go back to the run through to the.
Well, you answered my question.
Okay.
I was just going off a totally wrong idea.
Oh, well, it's
I like the real idea a lot better.
Yes. The plan, yes. It's not a bulk RV warehouse.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions before we proceed? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was the storage part of the original?
No.
This is new, right?
So that as the landowner being in the storage business, that was part of our business. We didn't have the storage planned in the original presentation. The original vision was the possibility of a subsection on the area that's now Lot 5 for the warehouse. We looked at the possibility of that. We didn't have our feasibility complete prior to the January meeting. Our research firm was actually doing that study at the time, and so I didn't want to commit to a project that wasn't viable and put it in there. The results came back as we expected, there's, the market's underserved by a lot in this area.
Yeah, and that's on 1604? Down front's on 1604?
That's correct. Self-storage, the 2 acre self-storage tract would be on Loop 1604. So if we put it, we can go back to the.
Yeah. So, you're here asking, so I'm going to be honest. Universal City is very limited in our retail opportunities. We have Cat Booker, we have Katie Hawk, we have some 1604 frontage.
It is.
We don't get a lot of retail sales tax off of self-storage.
That's correct.
You know, we've said, you know, we need more rooftops where people are going to go out and spend their money locally. And I feel like as a council, that's something we've really tried to push for. So the apartment side of this, you know, that's great. That's, you know, we need that. The self-storage being on one of our visible corner areas, I feel like is a wasted opportunity for the city. It's a great opportunity for a self-storage. I totally get it, and I commend you on it. But I don't want to short-sight ourselves like we've done with other projects in the past. I'm having a harder time with it personally.
Sure. No, appreciate that feedback, and that's one of the considerations when we looked at the development of the overall project. We looked at several different options, and developing retail in that area was actually one of the things that we spent a lot of time researching. Mid-block retail doesn't perform as well as something on a corner. The other thing, as we've looked at what our competition would be in the area, looking at Kitty Hawk and some of the retail centers there, as well as retail on 1604, the centers aren't full, and there's a large mix of service-related tenants that do not provide sales tax revenue to the city. So when you fill up with hair salon, nail salon, insurance agent, there's no sales tax revenue for the city there. And as tenants rotate through, depending on the mix of tenants, you may see some adjustments. And we all know from, you know, the last 2 or 3 years what sales tax dollars look like, depending on the retail that's available. The land that we're building the storage on would support about 20,000, optimistically, square feet of retail on that 2 acres. You'll get about 10,000 square foot per acre of coverage in retail by the time you put the necessary parking and access in there. 20,000 square feet of retail is, pick a number, 3 million worth of real estate. 100,000 square feet of storage is twice that amount. Similar size storage facilities to the one we're building are in the $5 to $8 million range in Byrd County on the tax rolls. So you're losing sales tax dollars on that 2 acres. You're probably, I don't want to commit to pay, but you know what the bill's going to be. I mean, we're putting a lot more development in the area, and it's secured by real estate. Property taxes get paid. Sales tax is somewhat seasonal. It could adjust based on the economy, and depending on tenant mix, may or may not provide the dollars you're looking for. Whereas the storage facility that's there permanently and provides property tax dollars, we get the sales tax dollars, might be preferable to property tax dollars, but it's a more durable income stream.
Yeah, because what I would love to see is a reduction in the warehouse. Put the storage back there. You'll still have visibility. We'll still keep a retail corner that now encompasses that entirety all the way to that's Byrd.
Yes, we've.
So that takes it off of mid-block. If we incorporate it into the thing, it takes it off of the mid-block argument.
Well, when I say mid-block, I'm talking it's between
Kitty Hawk.
FM78 Kitty Hawk, yeah, so like even, your best chance for retail is north of Byrd, where at least you have a chance of getting there from the frontage road. Right now, it's at best a tight turn to make the 1604 exit onto Byrd. At best, at best. So you want to be north of Byrd Boulevard to have access from Loop 1604 on the retail. We've looked at a lot of different options, but when taking an odd-shaped piece of property, underlying the ACUs, dipping into the floodplain, bisected with a pipeline, this is what the perfect answer is. I mean, it really is.
I get it.
That's why we were here in January, and 10 months later we finally finished our homework assignment. It's not an easy piece of dirt to work with. I left out topography, sorry, I reversed that. Topography is in there too.
And as a guy that's dealt with it, make sure you look at all the deed restrictions and even further get Randolph to look at what they think the deed restrictions are, because it may not be on what you think the deed restrictions are. So that one will bite you sometimes.
So let's talk about that, because obviously we will present this. If you can go to the very first slide, and you'll see that there's a blue or purple, that's the blue or purple parcel. So where that blue meets the red, that is the Air Force perpetual clear zone easement fly zone. And so even though that purple is part of their property, you can see that they have cut it out of the development process. I think you indicated that it would be park on there. The discussions that we've had then within staff that, they're intending to have a walking trail. We know we've got the lake and that development on the other side. At some point, we do need extra places for people to park if they're going to utilize all of the park amenities. And so that could very easily be just a parking lot or, a parking lot with some restrooms for people who want to use the walking trails in that area.
And then the other thing, I think you're selling that access, the cars on that access road, you're selling it short with anticipating just everybody off of 1604. You've got a huge section of town that shops at that HEB that's on that side of 1604 that goes down Good Sprawl and takes that left and goes on the access road and heads to Kitty Hawk. You've got a wonderful opportunity to really catch a lot of people at a retail section. What I'd really love to see is that, again, it's what's best for us and you, and I understand that. So if I can see an argument for this is what you could anticipate with retail sales tax versus this is what you can anticipate with property taxes, and if that's something that's beneficial to both of us, then I can get behind that argument all day long.
The tenant mix for retail, this isn't going to be a high-performing retail if it's built in that location. The sales tax, I mean, you guys, you know your city better than I do. The Walmart out parcel, built in 2017, 2 of the 5 spaces never occupied, 2, at least 2 or 3 not even collecting sales tax.
And
it's tough for us to quantify a sales tax.
And I'm going to interrupt real quick, because Live Oak did the same thing with where the IKEA sits. That land sat vacant for a long time. And now that the IKEA is there, we're seeing more and more come up. And just ask anybody that's local in that audience as to the traffic on Pat Booker, how that's increased since, over the last few years. The city has sold itself short in the past and made hindsight bad decisions. And I would hate to not have these discussions and look at it in depth to do that.
So the multifamily that we see in red is from a developer who built Aspire in Live Oak, competing property directly across the street. They have 5 acres of retail in front of that property that's been vacant since before development. They have 1 acre of retail occupied, and that one actually has a reasonable mix of sales tax on the live oak, but the access is a little better, but not great. It's not like a hard corner on Kitty Hawk, but still a little better access for the, but again, that's 1 acre retail, not 3 acres. We've got the 1 acre on the corner for the retail, and we pretty much just copied the homework because the developer that's doing these apartments did Aspire, it worked out well, and the 1 acre retail on the corner adjacent to that is doing okay, but the other 3 or 4 acres has been vacant for sale, and nobody's come along to buy it and develop it. So
Okay, thank you, Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hang in there.
Yes.
You may have a couple other questions, Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have a problem with the storage unit. It wasn't on the original drawing when you guys came in. I don't really like presenting that on our 1604 access. I'm not going to get into the details.
Sure.
Mr. Goolsby got into. I appreciate he thinks about that. I'm looking at more of, I mean, from an opportunity standpoint, it's great. You've got an apartment complex that's going to need a lot of extra storage because nobody ever has enough space in their apartment. So I see you getting a lot of business out of that. However, you also have a lot of people living in that apartment complex that could use retail that they could walk to. You know, as opposed to having to drive all the way over to HEB and, Kitty Hawk and 1604. You know, it wasn't in my vision of what I saw when we were starting to develop along 1604. And I know you're here for our opinion, and that's my opinion.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Again, that's why we're here. We can give you our personal feelings as to what we see before you continue to proceed on. So take it as a grain of salt.
No, we pretty
opinions that they all have. Anybody else have anything else? Mr. Neville?
We talked about apartments. The apartments has a couple of possibility of apartments have 3-story and 4-story.
3 stories, sir. It's 10 story.
This 4-story?
Yes, that's all limits. It's 3 story.
That's some attention to detail.
And they're all, still outside up, right? I mean, it's covered, it's still outside. When I see the railings here, it looks like there's stairs going up.
Asking stairs versus elevators.
Those look like balconies.
So it's the 3-story version of this building. Yes. So something more.
That's
it'll look like this, which is the 3-story. Some of the images were just good images, and it's the 4-story image, which is a 3-story building. So
4-story, I would demand elevator. No 4-story.
And that's planned. I can't speak to which buildings have the elevators or where the locations are. I don't know if that detail is in.
Again, apologies. That developers, the kid with the flu and the strep and the architect couldn't be here.
They did talk about that, so you can
We
see
did.
in the center.
That was the center of the middle building.
Yeah, the middle building.
Middle building has
U-shaped,
elevators.
Okay.
Are the premium ones, and those are the ones that will have access to the elevators.
Yes.
That's what they presented at the first meeting.
And that has not changed. So that building will have elevators.
And the other one still has outside stairs?
Stairs, yes, sir.
At least they're covered.
Yes, sir. It's not exposed to the element.
But it's still a big hole. Trying to take a king-size bed up there with a king-size mattress.
Yes, sir. They'll hire me first.
If it's young, I guess. Younger than me.
I in college, I did stuff up 3 or 4 floors. It's a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Vaughan.
This is a quick question for staff. They can explain it to me, because it's a little bit new to me. But my understanding is zone commercial, right? So the idea is we could wait for Mr. Goolsby's IKEA to come, or we would hear a proposal on what they're planning to do, and we would say, does this sound good enough for us to change it? That's that's really what we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
What the PUD would see, we're gonna change it from commercial to
So the
what they wanna do, we like the idea.
Right. The PUD allows them to do things within the zoning ordinance that would normally be allowed under a strict zoning. And so this mixed development would be it. I think this property is actually zoned C4 and C5.
C4 and 5.
Which highway commercial is a lot of retail components to it, some office, some hotel, and then the C4 is basically North Lake. So that's what it has. They're just giving us a mix of that, and then they're designating how they would like that mix to work. And they're asking for council feedback, i.e. at some point approval for the plan that they're presenting. But you are correct, it's either accept what they're proposing in the form that they're proposing it, or outright deny it and wait to see what happens at some time in the future.
And multifamily would fit in C4, C5, or would not? Traditionally.
Multifamily is not provided in C5.
Okay.
But there are certain permitted uses by right that they could build in the C4 and C5. So it could be a hodgepodge development if you follow the zoning as it is currently situated. So meaning, for example, in C4, they could put self-storage. And there might be uses that we don't want at that location, but by right, they can do it. So the PUD is basically to provide a win-win, because as he mentioned, there are a lot of complications and difficulties with developing this entire tract of land. And so this allows for us to basically mix and match different uses and tell them which types of uses we think would be more acceptable. And they also look at the feasibility study, the market analysis, to determine whether those types of uses that we would like to see are actually viable from a market standpoint.
And if you don't mind, Councilman, if I could add to that, the PUD level of detail that you wouldn't have in a normal base zoning in terms of building layout, actual building layout, as opposed to, we decide where it's going to go. But there's another piece of it. The legislature changed law years ago, and that cities can no longer dictate building materials. The PUD is a mechanism to give a level of detail on building materials that the city typically doesn't have a mechanism to enforce. So that's another piece of it. So we spent a lot of time at the last meeting, I know you were not on council at that point, talking about building materials. But again, that's something that is unique to the PUD, is the ability to talk about those building materials and have an enforcement document. So it's a better tool for the city, I think. And I don't believe the discussion here is whether we do a PUD or not. It's how it lays out. And I think, Councilman, to your point on the question, both of you, about the retail sales versus the ad valorem. And just to share a recent experience, I worked on the project in Live Oak for Adjournment. So they took that corner right there. And Live Oak had that zone for retail. And that was part of the discussion we had. We spent a lot of time, just like this project, we spent a lot of time fleshing out that project, and that was a question that came up. Ultimately, the zoning commission, the city council supported the Adjournment project, recognizing that, yes, there's a possibility for retail, but retail never, ever developed on that site. And what Adjournment brought, obviously a beautiful design, I don't know if you've seen the renderings for it, but the Adjournment project is going great. But there's the certainty of knowing that you're going to have that increased ad valorem value as opposed to the uncertainty of what the sales tax revenues would be. And that's what Mike was struggling with to answer your question, is we don't know what those sales tax revenues are going to be. If it was Chick-fil-A, I could tell you. I've worked on Chick-fil-A projects. They just turn over buckets of money 6 days a week. They're great projects for what they are, or a Walmart, right? Here, though, the size, the scale, the location, I think create a level of uncertainty. So I think that's part of what Mike was arguing here a few minutes ago, is that we have some certainty in terms of what the ad valorem, the property tax value would be. Hopefully the appraisal district's not listening, but we have some certainty as to what that would be as opposed to the sales tax. And again, I talked too long.
Okay, let me go ahead, Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Gentlemen, your points about access to the site are very well taken. The trying to get to any of these facilities is going to be challenging at best, let's say, especially for a large 18-wheeler truck coming from I-10 driving along 1604, how do you envision that 18-wheeler truck coming from I-10 along 1604 is going to access sites 4 and 5, the warehouses? The way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's two possibilities. If they're able to make the exit off of 1604 to make a right turn onto Byrd, right? If they're heavily loaded, that's going to be tough, and they're going to have to be driving really slowly as they use that exit ramp. Or continue along the access road, make a U-turn at Kitty Hawk, go under the road, and make essentially a big loop to go back under 1604 to get into there. How is this? And maybe Michael and Randy, you guys can talk to this. How is this going to impact traffic in the area with the increased truck traffic and the apartments, and then also being able to get to that retail location at the corner of Byrd and 1604? I don't know right off the top of my head, how difficult is that exit to try to be able to slow down to a reasonable speed where you can make the right turn to access those facilities? And also if you can talk about maybe if you can talk about current road conditions and whether or not that all those turnarounds are set up to support that increased truck traffic. Thank you.
So I can speak to the first point. So the access, as it's currently constructed, frontage road off of 1604, there's no way that a semi is going to be able to make that turn onto Byrd. In fact, I don't think that vehicles are going to be able to make that turn. Okay.
So this affects the apartment residents then as well. For anybody coming from south, and because of the railroad tracks being a limiting factor right there, they can't even get off one exit earlier.
Correct.
It's likely, if you look at the apartment, and you see that apartment has 2 entrances off of Byrd and only one on no, they have none on 1604.
The apartments aren't accessing the 1604 frontage road.
Right. So the people on the apartments will be coming off of Byrd. Most likely, they would be coming down Kitty Hawk to UC Boulevard, or down Byrd that way, or from Passbrook Road to Byrd, however they're going to get it. They'll find a way to get home. Really, the bigger issue is going to be the 18-wheelers because they are going to be accessing off of the frontage road. So who's going to answer the frontage road question?
I mean, it's actually just exactly what you said, the second part of it. They'd have to U-turn from Kitty Hawk around to get in there, since they won't be able to exit or get in directly off Byrd.
Right, TxDOT just upgraded that entire frontage road access property.
Yes.
I guess a concern of mine is as you're coming along from the opposite side of 1604, let's say, coming from Selma or Converse, and you're making that's just one lane in each direction to go under 1604 and either continue on Aviation going straight or make the left onto the frontage road, right? A challenge for this is going to be that increased truck traffic along with the residents departing their residences in the mornings and trying to get in there. So that would be a very heavily considered factor in my considerations for all of this. Is that increased traffic, the impact of the residents that are already there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby?
Thank you. I wanted to clarify something I heard earlier, and I want to make sure I heard it correctly. So there was a drawing up here that's got coloring on it for the different areas. Can we go back to that? It's one of the first drawings. That one. So I heard something mentioned about NACOs being through here on the, was that the purple?
Mm-hmm.
When I look at the drawing, we're developing there a commercial building. And I want to make sure I heard what I heard. When I hear something about the development of some...
It's the blue area.
It's the blue.
Is that not the purple, it's the blue? Okay.
The blue lot 6.
That's where we're looking at and doing some park development or something like that.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. That's okay, I just want to make sure I understood whichever we're talking about. Okay. And just kind of to extend on what Councilman Buck had mentioned, it's not just that there's no turnaround under 1604 and 76, it's a stop sign. Sounds horrible for everybody coming down to get to that intersection, especially if it lines up. But at the same side of that, on the other side of the coin, Isn't that what we have Walmart do? Don't they have to bring their trucks down that to get in? Okay,
That's exactly what they do.
okay. And we haven't really had a major issue there. So I just wanna make sure we're thinking,
Through there, then
it
they
sounds
turn-
horrible, we also are using it that way now.
Walmart has a designated truck route that they take, and they still take that one. And they're actually, for the most part, 80% of the time, but they are coming down Byrd and then turning right and then getting to Universal City Boulevard and turning left. And then when they get to the Walmart rear entrance, they turn left again, and then they reverse themselves coming out.
Okay, and then the third side of this two-sided coin here is we're talking about putting a substantial, I know every apartment, not everybody leaves at the same time, not everybody comes home at the same time, but we are talking about bringing more traffic onto Kitty Hawk Road going east into town. And that road's already busy. When are we adding the third lane? That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Goolsby?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I got two quick ones. One, please don't think I'm against it. I just want to see the numbers, a little bit more, that route. The other one is what's the phasing that you're anticipating on this? Is it the apartments, then the storage? Is it the storage and then maybe the apartments? Is there a phasing plan, or is it all at once?
Well, there are some benefits to coordinating the site work for all of the lots together. The apartments are heavily dependent on the financing timeline. The original proposal is based on HUD financing for the apartments, and the application that we made a year ago, I say we, the developer for the apartments made a year ago, they just got their appointment with HUD to review the loan. So, imagine applying for a credit card and waiting for a year before they even review it. So that it's been a challenge. So the apartments are going to be heavily driven by financing. The storage and the retail on the corner similar depends on. And let's not overlook the sales tax dollars from the hard corner. We're really only talking about 2/3 of the 3 acres. The apartments are going to be heavily impacted by the financing, so I can't commit to the schedule there. Based on financing conversations and construction conversations on the storage, pending approval of the project, optimistically we could come out of the ground middle of next year and have the storage C of O in 24 in time for the 2024 moving season. I can't speak to, well, you guys might be the first movers.
Potentially, it just depends on the market, interest rates, and tenants, prospective tenants that are out there looking for space. Really, a lot of components trigger us starting or waiting a little while.
Mr. Turner, you got something to offer?
Well, yes, he just talked about HUD financing, and I know that people all of a sudden probably got this impression about PFC, Section 8, tax credits and all of that. HUD does the financing for almost all apartment complexes, regardless of whether they have tax credits or PFCs or it's a conventional loan. And this is a conventional loan through HUD. There are no tax credits. There are no PFC components to it. It is all market rate housing, even though it is still financed through HUD.
HUD 221D4 is the provision, and it is for market rate housing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good. Okay, well, you got some feedback.
Thank you.
So that's what this session is all about. So I hope that was constructive for you, and I wish you the best of luck on it's your call. But now you know how council feels about some of the issues.
Well, thank you all very much, and appreciate your time and indulgence tonight. We'll factor that in. We'll be back. Thank you.
Good. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, next item. Thanks for coming. Okay, our next item this evening under business is tab number C, and it's going to be another presentation. It's going to be on the concept plan for 2280 Pat Booker Road. So I'll turn that over again. Michael, are you going to lead it off?
Yes, sir. Okay, so this is the second PUD concept plan presentation for the night. This plan also came before you, I think, twice in the last couple of years. The difference between this one and the previous presentations is that this does not have a PFC component. This is a market rate proposal. There has been a slight change to the building configuration and the height of the buildings, but I'll let the petitioner explain all that for you.
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Steve Robb. I'm the president of Investment Realty Company, and I'm the general partner for the group that owns this property. We actually purchased it in 2007. You well know the property, I'm sure you know well. That has about 1,100 feet of frontage on Pat Booker Road. It's joined by Napa Auto Parts to the south and Bahama Bucks to the north. And there's Medallion Subdivision to the west, or the other side. So we are applying for the PUD zoning that will permit the construction of a 300-unit market rate apartment complex. My understanding is the last new multifamily property was built in Universal City was in 2006. I think it's called the Ira Grove Apartments with 308 units. And just prior to that was Sunrise Canyon in 2005. And then all the other apartment properties in Universal City were built before the year 2000. Let's see if I get lucky with this. Cool. So this property will, as 300 units, we would expect it to be a construction cost of approximately $48 million. The estimated value of it on the tax rolls would be roughly $55 million at a minimum. This would produce a total tax revenue of approximately $1,377,000 for all taxing entities. The current tax on the property is $43,229, and the value is $1,726,000. When the property was purchased in 2007, taxes were running about $16,000, or about a third of what they are now. A study was made of the economic impact of this type of project in Universal City, and it includes an over $8 million impact on local income would be added to your economy and 125 local jobs. So let me go through here. This shows the site plan and the survey of the property. The red line is the sewer line just to the north of the property, so it's easily accessed through the drainage easement. And then here also is the blue line, all the main water lines, so it's very accessible to utilities. This is the site plan that we're proposing at this time. It's composed of 3 4-story buildings. 300 units is a very typical size for apartment projects. Builders have found that to be a very efficient and effective and economical size for a project to be built. We have not chosen a developer yet for this property. We've been in discussions with several, and obviously we were here with the PFC proposal about a year ago, which we did not go forward with. However, the current uncertainties in the financial markets have caused most of the developers, many developers, to go on pause until they can see a little more stability and certainty in the interest rate market and be able to factor those into their financial analysis. Right now, it's kind of all over the board, as I'm sure you're probably aware. We feel like the 4-story concept makes the best use of this site, and it does cost a little bit more to build a 4-story property than a 3-story walk-up property. But with the 4-story property, it does allow us more than ample handicap accessible units because of the elevator. And we know that that's an important facet for the project and for the city. All the units will have fire alarms and sprinklers. The site attempts to preserve as much of the heritage trees that are on the property as possible, though I'm sure we can't preserve them all, obviously, because we have to be able to put the buildings up. But we are sensitive to that, and we're going to do the best we can to make it an attractive property and take advantage of the landscaping that's there presently. Minimum amount of this property, the buildings will intrude into the aircraft protection zone. And so if you will look at the site plan, and roughly at the very top, there's a little tip there, but where the drainage area is, from that corner down to the bottom right-hand corner is where the aircraft protection zone is, ACUS, APZ. We try to keep as many units out of that as possible, but in order to be able to achieve the number of units that we have to make it economical, that's why we've gone 4 stories. And another reason for the 4 stories also, you'll notice that it gives us the most amount of setback we can, both from Pat Booker Road and from the homes to the upper part of the property, we'll call it the north part of the property, set back as far as we possibly can in order to provide privacy and aesthetics for the property. I am fully aware of the city's interest in increasing retail in the property. And I've mentioned in the past, I've tried, as I said, purposely, we bought the property in 2007, and I've been trying to get retail developers to work on this property throughout that time without success. And we've gone at it about as hard as we possibly can. As mentioned before, mid-block retail is very difficult to work with. This is a mid-block location. Obviously, the traffic counts along IH-35 and Loop 1604 are much higher. Consequently, that's where the retail has clustered because versus 25 to 28,000 cars a day versus probably 200,000 cars a day makes a significant difference in how the retail developers position their property. And so while these apartments do not generate retail sales tax specifically, they will have 300 units, will probably be 400 to 450 approximately, residents who do want to spend their tax dollars in your city, in your retail developments that are on Pat Booker Road now. And so that, I would suggest, is how you'll see the best impact from, for your retail sales tax would be from added number of residents here. And that's, they'll be using their consumer dollars in your retail stores. Now I'd like to introduce my associate presenter today. This is Miguel Saldana. He's an architect with Brendler Architects. And his associates have authored this particular design. And I'm going to let him address now some of the PUD requirements that the city has. Go ahead.
Thank you. Miguel Saldana with B&A Architects, local here in San Antonio, and specializing in multifamily projects. We've got involved in this project, and some of my team members have helped develop this concept site plan for getting some feedback from the group. I would, I guess, like to kind of preface things, since this is kind of a single-use residential at the moment, why we are looking for the PUD zoning as opposed to an R5. And so I would just kind of like to reiterate the points made about the increased density. Currently, R5 zoning allows for 20 units per acre. Current unit layout for 300 units would bring the development, as shown, to about 28.6, almost 29 units per acre, which is a little, obviously higher than the current R5 zoning that the city has, but it is kind of certainly within kind of the typical higher density zoning we see in other cities would be like an R33, so we are kind of below that as well. The 4-story concept, again, trying to best utilize the site, being sensitive to some of the tree preservation and developing some parkland on the site. I think being able to do a higher density building footprint helps speak to that purpose. And then, as we also mentioned, bringing buildings to 4-story ensures essentially the use of elevators, which makes for a more accessible and universal use for the future of the buildings and the units. And so those are some of the features that brought us to the PUD zoning request. And really within the PUD, we're trying to exert its requirements by, again, trying to make best usage of the site, giving us some flexibility in the placement of the buildings. Again, really trying to meet the requirement for the open space through the creation of some parkland, kind of have like a linear trail area shown off of the street, and then some kind of pocket park areas. Unfortunately, I'm not sure you have an aerial available, but we are kind of setting our buildings away from some of the more tree-intense zones on the site. So we are aware of their locations and trying to preserve kind of the higher density patches of that landscaping as it currently exists. So,
Why don't you show the next couple of slides too, those elevations.
and then for usage and kind of the aesthetics, we are trying to be forward-looking for the city. I know, and certainly open to feedback, but we do hope to create a development that kind of speaks to the growth of the city, is something that can be seen as valuable and reflective of the future for the city. So this kind of 4-story concept is shown is an example of kind of a past project we felt would be a good model for what we're kind of looking to do on the site. Kind of feature. So we certainly are looking to do a high quality product for the city. So open to questions?
Okay,
Comments?
now let me open it up to the council now for their comments for you, because that's what we're here for tonight, is to give you our opinion on how we feel. So, okay, let's start out with Mr. Najarian, then we'll get to Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And actually, in the last presentation we had on this piece of property, and you're talking about, we wanted to get commercial and stay that way, but I also do remember from our last meeting about the last apartment project we were going to put on there, that we certainly agreed that that is not a bad place for this, for an apartment complex. Also, we had brought up the possibility, since we are landlocked and kind of the thought I was moving to, we need to move up since we can't move out. You have also addressed, which I really liked, is the 4-story, which was lacking in the other one. And this being a PUD, which the other one was a PFC, PFC, which kind of put a kibosh on the whole thing.
Yes.
But the idea, besides that, the apartment complex and everything else, that was 3-story. We were talking about it was great for younger families and everything else, but kind of put the elderly and other people with handicaps at a disadvantage of being able to move into such a property. So this, since you have to have obviously elevators and all, and everything's open to the handicap, makes that very nice. I like the modern look. And again, it wasn't that we were against the apartments being there, it was more the way it was presented. So, and in that atmosphere, we also had the discussion for the PUD, to be able to have that discussion, which you saw exactly what we did like and what we didn't like. So you've actually checked off, as far as I'm concerned, a few boxes from our last discussion, including that.
Yes, so we try to take that into account.
Yeah, like I say, the setbacks, I guess, the one concern, which we always have too, and now that we're putting a higher density from the 4 stories, and I do see how you've worked this in with the trees and everything else, which is also a concern, is, I guess, going back to looking at parking. I guess with this, I can't tell if we're well within range, and I know what the number is. I know you met that number, but does it exceed, or?
I believe so. In comparison, based on an R5 zoning, requirement is a kind of a point of basis. 1 bedrooms with 1.5 parking spaces, 2 bedrooms with 2.5 parking spaces. Would be 495 spaces as required, and then the text is kind of small on screen. And so currently design spaces are 523, so we are slightly above with a 1.73 parking ratio for a typical market rate apartment developments in these areas. As a firm, we typically like to shoot for 1.75 parking ratio, so we're just a couple parking spots away from the norm, but within meeting the requirements of the R5 zone.
And I'm looking here, just one other quick question, looking in here, they're all 1 to 2 bedrooms. I don't see any 3, is that correct?
Currently, yes, we're designing 1 and 2 bedroom units.
And I wouldn't say that we wouldn't be able to put 3 bedrooms there. This is a conceptual design, and it depends on how we do the market study, so forth, and what the demand is. But still, it's certainly possible to add 3 bedrooms in there. But certainly those are more family units than an empty nester type of scenario.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Mr. Shelby, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no questions. This is great. I love it.
Okay, thank you.
I like everything about this. It's a great use of this property, which has been sitting vacant for long enough that nothing's ever been built there, right? So this is great. Thank you.
Mr. Goolsby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank y'all for listening to us and what we had to say. One thing I wanted to ask was, is that big enough for a school bus turnaround?
Well, what we would anticipate doing, so you have one entryway there. If we could get a second entryway from TxDOT, that'd be super. But we can't plan on that, so this particular site has the one. So they would be doing a turn in, obviously off that look to the right, and then they would circle around those buildings to come back out. Now, it's not, I don't drive a school bus myself, but I'm thinking it has to be, they'll circle around the buildings and then come back out.
Okay, thank you. What's the floor-to-floor height on these apartments?
So a typical, you call it a plate height, is a 9-foot plate. We are kind of integrating the club into one of the buildings, kind of one of the, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but it's the screen. The slightly darker rose color on the central building is meant to indicate the kind of a clubhouse leasing space amenity. So for that type of design, we typically have the first floor plate potentially 11 feet, and then 9-foot plates above. That's pretty standard.
So where I'm headed is I want to know how many people are going to be looking into those backyards. I love that you didn't just line them up across the back and looking into those backyards. You really seem to put thought and minimized that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so really you don't have a kind of a long span of building that's facing the residential properties. You have those end caps. So I would consider the buildings kind of further to the, I guess it'd be the east, to really not be looking at the residential. So it's really the 2 buildings on your left side that would have any potential overlook. So that's really just 6 buildings over 4 floors, 24 units that would have potentially some visibility, and even then the first 4 units probably would have the fence that would kind of screen. So.
We're anticipating probably an 8-foot fence longer, which is go as high as you put a fence feasibly.
Well, and you're at least 60 feet off of that property line.
Yes, sir.
And thanks I appreciate you leaving as many of the trees as you can. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Vaughan?
My only thought is, I like it too, I don't have any problem with it, is the traffic on Pat Booker. If they're coming out and making a right, and then we have another apartment complex down the way a little bit. I don't know if there's any way that we have any ideas to maybe alleviate that if it becomes a problem, or is there any way to help with that?
So they're gonna go to TxDOT and give traffic counts of what they have and what they're adding, and TxDOT's gonna be indicating to them where they need to put in an acceleration lane or a de-acceleration lane. so that there is more room for cars to stack and merge onto Pat Booker Road.
Is there, do they have enough right of way for that? Like to, or would we lose our sidewalk if we?
There's right of way out there. So where the, can you zoom in, Kristen, on the driveway flare? That driveway flare that they have is in the right of way. That little gray piece like this, that is the right of way. So it may be that in the white space on either side of that, that's the, yes, Kristen's pointing to it. That is the TxDOT right of way, and they may require them to make some improvements there to accommodate.
Where's our sidewalk? Would it seek up the sidewalk that's there?
The sidewalk would be relocated if they had to put in that decel lane or right turn.
By
You
pushing
can
into their
see that
property,
they've
I guess,
already
or-
moved part
Right
of
up
the
against it.
sidewalk into their property line. But yes, they'll have to keep the sidewalk and they may have to relocate it.
And it's all, as you can see, we have enough setback there to accommodate that.
Right.
But those are things we'll just have to work through as we get more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share some of the concerns with Councilmembers Shelby and Vaughan regarding comments that I've heard from the community about the impact to traffic. Generally speaking, because I'm not in Universal City in the mornings or in the afternoons, is it fair to say that the majority of traffic along Pat Booker in the mornings is headed into the city from like 1604 towards Randolph Air Force Base? And in the afternoons, it's the opposite, with people driving essentially from the direction of Randolph Air Force Base towards 1604. Is that an accurate statement?
No. I believe that last time we looked at the traffic counts, which are about 29,000 total counts per day up and down Pat Booker Road, that it's pretty evenly split, which was surprising to us. We'd have to take a look at the most current numbers that TxDOT provides, but it's evenly split going north and south. And so what you're looking at here is with 300 units, that's 300 additional trips during the rush hour in the morning and afternoon. And so we compare that to 29,000 per day, or divide that in half, 14,500. That's a nominal amount of additional trips coming from this site.
The number you stated of 29,000, is that throughout the course of the day, or is that rate broken down? Because I guess what I was trying to get at was, is it one direction in the morning and an opposite direction in the afternoon primarily,
it's
or is
split. You have, so it's split both ways, and then it's divided by morning and afternoon.
Okay.
It's about the equal amount.
Okay. So I think that puts it a little bit in perspective when we talk about 300 units. How many cars would that potentially add to the traffic along Pat Booker in the mornings? Because I've definitely heard that concern from a lot of the residents about what's going to be the impact for the traffic to Pat Booker Boulevard. At the beginning of your presentation, Stephen, you said you gave a lot of statistics. How long has your firm owned the property?
Since 2007.
Since 2007. You've been marketing it progressively, I assume, to try to
Yes, sir.
to try to get something in there.
And much to his credit,
Yes.
he has been back before numerous city councils with propositions of various types of developments to go in there, and they have not been well received. So, for whatever that's worth.
Self-storage, charter school, churches, row homes,
Yep, all of them.
pads, I mean,
Yep.
I think Steve's examined every possible option available. And this, you're convinced that this is probably the best alternative that we
yes,
have?
I do. And as I expressed, I understand the economic impact is extremely important to the city council as well as just visual architectural. And to my mind, this will have the best benefit for you. I think this will help owners of other apartments think about maybe revitalizing and maybe putting a little more money into their properties. Trying to step very carefully on that.
Sure.
But if, as in life, if we don't have a little competition, we don't get better. I'll just leave it at that. I understand. It's enough.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Sorry, I have 4 topics I'd like to cover, and that's the part where I share with Councilmember Shelby that I think everybody would like to see additional retail, but it's just not coming. So this is going to be something that we're doing with the property. And if I could ask you to look up your stats again that you said at the beginning, the current value of the property and the estimated value of the property when it's developed, and how that is going to bring in additional ad valorem revenue to the city, what that's going to represent as a change or as an increase for us.
The current tax, the current properties on the rolls for $1,726,000, $580, $1,726,000. And this year in January, we'll pay $43,229 in taxes. I have to throw out there, it used to be $16,000 just because, you know, everybody's at for it. I would estimate the finished value of the property at least $55 million, probably higher than that. Between interest rates and inflation and everything else, that's a conservative figure, would be $55 million for a 300 unit apartment complex. Using the millage rate 0.029, I came up with $1,377,000 in taxes. $1,377,000 now in the future versus $43,000 now.
So that's close to $1 million of additional tax revenue that the city could would receive based on the construction of this.
That'd be over $1.3 million.
So I think that sounds like a win for the city as well. That's certainly better than having it sit there empty as it is right now. I also saw that there were only 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. What's your target demographic with having? I saw the numbers here with having 69% are 1 bedrooms and 31% are 2 bedrooms. Understanding this is only a concept, this is an initial, we'll do something like this. What do you envision being your target demographic?
Well, the demographic will be Universal City. As you all well know, you have those boundaries of 351604, Civil Oak Creek, and 78. So that's going to be a great deal of those people here. I would anticipate perhaps people who are already living in Universal City, perhaps if somebody wants to sell their home and move into an apartment, finally they got something that's modern and efficient that they want to move into. Or somebody who's been in an older apartment because they need to be here because of family or work or some other reasons, finally they'll have some place to move that's a little nicer than where they've been.
Again, I guess my question about the target demographics, are you looking for young professionals with no children, young families that are just starting off? Are you looking to attract retirees that want to downsize, something like that, I guess is what I was looking for. Or do you even have a target demographic?
Well, I don't want to be vague, but all three, of course. One of the reasons we redesigned this for 4 stories is to accommodate more for the retired community, because that was the feedback that I got from the city council last time. And so while it is more expensive to do that, we took that into account. I don't see a lot of school-age families or children in here. That's why we downplayed the 3-bedroom units, because those tend to accommodate more for families, of course. And we see it more as either young professionals or empty nester type of demographic. But again, we need to do a little more work on that, and then the next time you'll see us, we'll have a lot more details on that. But we've tried to look more at the 1 and 2 bedroom rather than just family units. There will be some 3 bedrooms in here simply because it's an important part of the mix.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I very much like the plan.
I'm going to add to Mr. Buck's issue on the traffic. So I did some quick calculations on how many homes would you fit in there minus the infrastructure, and they were on 1/4 acre lots, which is, like 4 houses per acre, fairly close to what's adjoining it. It would end up being approximately 38 homes. If you had 3 people in each house, that's 115 people. If they each resident had 2 cars, the traffic comes out to the same. The difference is that because of the critical mass of people, you have a much more higher valuable piece of property than you would be even if you took all 38 of these homes and you put them together as a tax value.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I love the concept, I love the name, Wing to West.
Okay.
It's a good concept. I've got a couple, the 2 bedrooms.
Yes, sir.
Do I have 1 bath or 2?
Typically do a 2-bath. Two baths.
2 baths. 1 inside bedroom and 1 outside bedroom?
Yes, usually one is accessible from the living space, and then one for the master is usually a bit
And
more
the
private.
1 bedroom?
For the 1 bedrooms, we typically like to have the single bathroom accessible from both the living space and the bedroom.
Can fire apparatus maneuver around the roads inside?
Yes, we sized all the radius curves for a 26-foot radius.
Yeah, that's very important.
Just one more.
Yes.
Have you talked to Tescott about putting up any security fencing around the whole property or around Patbrook, the roadside?
We've not had a chance to talk to TxDOT yet, since we're still in preliminary. Certainly, that's going to be very important, one of our next steps to do. When you say security fencing, one, TxDOT is not going to do us any favors. We're going to, I meant that. That came out a little rough. But it's their road, and they'll allow us to use it, maybe.
That's correct.
But if there's any security fencing, what we would see probably is a wrought iron type of fencing across the front, because we feel like, as you've seen there, the visibility elevations of the property need to be shown. It's very important. We're not going to put a wood fence up there. And I think just for the security of the residents, wrought iron would probably be the appropriate way to go. Wood probably, very likely, wooden fence in the back, but again, that needs to be a solid.
To talk about traffic,
Yes.
I don't have a job except for everything that I do. The traffic at lunchtime is both ways on Patbrook Road. Traffic at 4 to 6 is both ways. People are leaving Randolph and it's here, and there are people coming back from jobs all the way up to Austin. But I leave that to you and TxDOT to figure that out. This is great, and thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Goolsby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I assume we will have a finished board that comes back before council as part of this process. When we start talking.
At some point.
We'll have a finished board.
Yes.
The amenities on this one, I know that you were really pushing the buildings themselves. I'm not seeing a lot of amenities amongst the as far as the built environment. Trying to get you a little bit more money from him, but I assume and I hope that there's going to be more detail on what the amenities are. I mean, I see a pool, I see a little house outside the clubhouse. I'm just not seeing a whole lot of that detail.
We've got the dog park, for instance, and kind of the pocket park there.
And I would also add, I mean,
in the clubhouse.
It's true, it's not really depicted clearly on plan, but the clubhouse sizing that you see there with both, house, leasing office, offices for management, but even within that space, we could also account for kind of a lounge area, kind of common living spaces, and a gym. is what we typically would fit within kind of the interior space.
What about the outdoor amenities? I mean, I know we've got the pieces out there, but there's a whole lot of grass, which again, I'm going to commend you for, but is there more than just grass in between the buildings and a little bit of a pool?
So we do envision, again, the pool and the cabana, some sort of barbecue station scattered throughout, the dog park. Those are very kind of typical amenities that we'd see at this kind of level of apartment complex. I think we can have kind of further discussions on ways to enhance that as well. Sometimes we've, again, the jogging trail, which is already kind of incorporated, is usually pretty well received. Depending on the demographic market study that we kind of move into, we can look at playgrounds and and maybe something of that nature.
Okay, and then I got,
The things we could look at to answer your question, could be like half-court basketball, pickleball court. Everybody loves those things today. Those are things can be added on, but that'll be up to the developer to finally, because it's kind of finishing touches. But it's important, if you see anything, any project that's new right now, it's very important to have those type of amenities because you're still competing with civil or shirts or live oak or any other. You have to do something that's current and it's what people expect because people are shopping other properties. And you want to be the one that stay in.
okay, and I've got one more that will be done, Mr. Mayor, and this one's more for our staff. The last ones that were up here, I was pushing again for more retail, and the more that we start talking about this, and I heard your sigh and I appreciate it. I know where you're at. What I was told years ago when we got onto the economic development was, let's not jump on the first shiny thing that comes to us, because we really want to push for retail. I'm going to really ask that we're not, again, selling ourselves short now for this shiny, because this is something that's sat undeveloped for so long, but do you not continue to hold on to that and to know that if we build these now that there is no retail opportunity? Is this something that we are happily committed to?
So we've come a long way in balancing our retail mix. We have more restaurants than we've had before. We have more retail environments, less auto sales, less auto repair. Remember, that's what we were trying to move away from. We have a better mix now, but now we're to the point, if we want to have attraction and fill in the retail lots that we have and fill in the strip centers that we have, we need to have a higher density of people living here in order to attract the appropriate kind of retail. So there is a real balance to it. But as most people will tell you, and Steve is better off at this than the rest of us, is that in order to do retail, you have to have rooftops and people. And we have I know this is a wonderful city, but we do not have a very high critical mass that we're going to attract a lot of big chain and or unique type stores that we see coming out now. They need to have a higher count of people and traffic. We need to give people reasons to come here.
Well, is the increased traffic on Pat Booker are we not anticipating that to continue to grow as we see that development out past Shirts and that? I'm looking for your crystal ball to tell me, is this the best option for this property? Because I know that, like I said before, we've seen the traffic increase. I anticipate we're going to continue to see traffic increase.
Right. Look at drive through the two shopping centers, one on each end of this property. And what do you see? Nothing in them, right? You've got a few stores, you've got a few hair salons, but you really don't have a lot of retail. And that's because even in the daytime population that we have, everybody's going out or on base. There's not enough activity and people in motion to fill those particular spaces that we have. And again, we go back to mid-block. If this had a traffic light on either corner, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. There have been so many attempts to try to market this property for retail, like Steve has tried for many years, and I think that the mid-block just makes it really difficult. And the fact that the density is not there. And so I think that the way that you've approached it this time, Steve, is much more practical than the previous one. And of course, we gave you our candid feelings at that time as well. So I think you fully understand that. Anybody else want to offer something? Yes, Phil?
This is one more traffic question. So when 1604 backs up on Pat Booker, how much do you think that will be alleviated by a right turn lane? I mean, is that going to solve all our problems, or
it'll make a huge difference?
If we can get that right turn lane in, yes.
Is it if? I thought it was happening. Is it still an if?
It's not happening yet.
Oh, it's not? I thought that was in the works.
No,
Get funded at all.
it's all about this. So what we had requested is when TxDOT was doing the 1604 or the I-35 project, we requested that they pop down off that freeway and put in that right turn on Pat Booker Road. And they said it is not part of the scope of their project, and it never was. And so it's most likely one of those things. I think it was in the EDC, Kristen, it was in the EDC plan to do a study in that area and just maybe consider even doing it ourselves to get it done.
But that's an option.
That's an option. Well, that's how we got Pat Booker Road done. TxDOT was never going to put trees and drainage and sidewalks in on Pat Booker Road. We did that ourselves, which is why we maintain those particular areas. But yes, it's always an option.
Thank you.
Good, everybody good? All right. Thank you for coming again this evening, and you got some good discussion from us.
In conclusion, thank you very much for your time and your input. I very much appreciate it. I'm glad that we're getting close to where we need to be. There's an element in real estate called time, which is the biggest enemy of real estate deals. Anyone will tell you that. Obviously, we've been working on this one for a long time. The current economic climate is not one that facilitates development of any kind. And so the next time we come back here, it will be where we've identified a specific developer, and they will have more of the, be able to answer more of the questions than you've had, than you've given us, because we'll just deal with it farther down the road. But the interest rate climate right now and economic climate for 2023 don't look that great. But people have to, from my standpoint, it's going to take probably, we'll just use 9 months, that's a nice thing. It takes 9 months to get a project from the time I go to contract to the time it can close, and that's fast. Because it has to go all the way down through all of your approvals, entitlements, and he's got construction drawings and there's building permits in hand, and the investors are not going to give you a dime, or not the investors, the banks, a dime till that's happened. Then it will take another 9 months to get the first building up, because they like to sequence them. So if this went swimmingly, this property would not be open for business till 2025. I mean, there's no, but we're working on it, so hopefully you see me back here again, and it's not this time next year.
Good, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, John. Okay, all right, next move on is tab number D, which is to consideration and approval of resolution 942. It's a resolution canvassing returns and declaring the results of a bond election. And I think you have it all before you there, so who's going to make?
Kristen's going to go ahead and.
Kristen.
Thank you.
Universal City held an election November 8th for the purpose of determining whether Universal City voters would authorize the issuance of a general obligation bond. The ballot item was titled Proposition A and read the issuance of not to exceed $30 million in principal amount of bonds for street improvements and the levy of a tax and payment thereof. There was a total of 5,771 votes. 4,034 for and 1,737 against, with an approval rate of 69.9%. The official certified rolls were not included in your packet because we have not yet received them from Byrd County. They will not come probably until Thursday or Friday of this week. However, the results of the provisional votes and late mail ballots won't change the results, so that's why we're still canvassing today.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Shelby, second by Councilmember Najarian. Discussion.
Randy, ready to get to work or what?
I'm ready.
So let me just give a little update. So the next step is obviously we're going to engage our engineer, and they will go about getting the probable estimated cost of construction on those roads. And then once that is done and we feel like we're ready to start issuing the next round of bonds, which won't be for a couple of years probably, then we'll be bringing some packages back for the city council to look at. So don't expect everything to happen in a hurry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mr. Shelby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, it's very pleasant to see that the citizens trust us to do the right thing. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor. For you, Mr. Mayor. Kristen, you said from Bexar County, we're also getting the certified election results from Guadalupe County, correct?
We already have those.
We have those. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right, Chris, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
That motion passes. We shall proceed. All right, excellent. All right, that concludes our business for this evening. So I'll turn it over to the city manager for her comments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just remembering that tomorrow night is the volunteer appreciation event at the Olivia Hills Golf Course. Starts at 5:30. It is a seated dinner, so we appreciate people showing up on time. And then the other item that we have is on December 6th is the Christmas tree lighting. We will have some reserved parking spaces at the back of the building for you. We actually flipped the switch at 6. I highly recommend that you be in your parking space before 5:30 so that you have a chance to enjoy the festivities, hear some of the choirs singing, and all the other events that we have going on. I know we always like to have a light agenda on the December 6th tree lighting ceremony night. I cannot guarantee that at this point. I know some of you like to not have the last meeting in December for our council meetings, and I cannot guarantee that at this point either. So if you are intending to leave early for Christmas vacation, if you would please let myself or either Kristen know, because we will have to do a quorum check. We do have people who are working on projects and programs and may need some feedback and or approval by city council. So that's all I have for this evening.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Shelby, we'll start with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I just want to say is it's outstanding, the work put into the pumpkin patch and the amount of money that was raised and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that went into making that happen. And I just wanted to personally thank everybody who was involved in that for putting their time in. I've lived in the city most of my entire life, and that has to be one of the most amazing programs that I see get put on in our city every year. Thank you.
Thanks.
Nothing from you tonight.
Okay, Paul?
I'd just like to reiterate, the pumpkin patch is very much successful, bigger every year, and again, as I brought up in the past, just never ceases to amaze me with the citizenship of Universal City. When you ask them to come, they come, and that part of what makes our city so beautiful. Also, had a great time. Veterans Parade, following you around in the car, that was fun. And running back and heading up with my Citizens Police Academy buddies, and it was a great weekend, and it was well attended, and just had a great time. And that's all I have. Thank you.
And the weather cooperative.
The weather cooperative, yes.
Okay, Mr. Neville. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to reiterate also and throw another stack onto the pile to the pumpkin patch and the great success, and to all the nonprofit organizations that received portions of that money that will go a long way to helping fund all the worthy nonprofits that are part of our lovely city and the surrounding areas. Also, I'd like to congratulate the city on the passage of the bond, as well as the Judson ISD for the passage of their two bond issuances. So look forward to seeing all the improvements around the city to our roads, as well as to the school system for our lovely children that are here. I'd also like to say, take this opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to tell my lovely wife happy birthday. It is her birthday.
Happy
birthday. Share my age too, 25.
And she's not a day over 25.
He's on the road.
Historical goings on in Universal City. In an advertisement in the November 9th issue of the Valley News in 1963, I think. Sorry, I didn't put the year in here. They were announcing custom-built homes that were going to be available in the Northview Park area for the amazing low price of $10,550. Randolph Realty was handling sales and offered easy payment terms of a mere $72 per month for their house payment. Would that not be nice? Also in November of 1986, City Hall bought its first computer for municipal operations that would include billing, finance, municipal court, and eventually engineering. The cost for that in 1986, everybody think of a possible cost for that very first computer? Just under $110,000 for the first computer. But it was like one of those big mainframes and
And we still have it, by the way.
And you do it, and we still have it?
Because we're required to keep all the data that's stored on it.
Nice, where are we holding that?
At the off-site storage unit for all data.
I would like to go see that behemoth one of these days. It is big. $110,000 for the first computer in Universal City. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, Bear?
How do you follow that? Again, Pump the Patch is fantastic, love that. And then I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that actually got out there and voted. It's huge, and you have to exercise your right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, for tomorrow night, it's been tradition lately, especially for our two members, that usually the council members wear their most phenomenal tie they can think of that's of the holiday season, and there's usually a vote. It's been won the last 3 years by Miss Volley, who always had a very special one. So now there's 6 guys vying for that championship tomorrow night. So I will probably bring up the fact that I want the folks that are there that we're honoring to vote about the specific ties that we're wearing.
I'm coming in heavy.
Paul's coming in very heavy. Okay, there's the challenge. Okay, one other thing I would like to just show you and talk about marketing and some of the things that are happening on the golf course site. It's very interesting that they worked out a special deal. If you take a look at here, this is the 14th green with the townhouse, the town suites behind it. And if you look at the flag itself, it doesn't say Olympia Hills. It says our organization combination. So it's helping market the Town Place Suites as well. And that moves every day. If you're a golfer, it's a red flag one day, a white flag, and blue flag. So they have the different flags every single day. So this is another way that we're working with the Town Suites to help market their property. So it's a win-win for all of us. So I didn't par the hole that day, but we had a good time. Anyway, so look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night. Thank you all for coming on this evening. As you saw, the process is where people have potential developers have a chance to bring their project to us and get our input as to how we feel if they want to even proceed. And so this is something we started almost a full year ago, or maybe even longer. Gives them a chance to get feedback from us. And that's really vitally important for them because they're looking at potentially investing lots and lots and lots of dollars in our community. So that feedback we give them has been invaluable to many of them. So I thank you for sticking around tonight and watching those presentations. And there were lots of questions, but I think it's very valuable for them, very valuable for us as well. So thank you very much for attending, you all. And it is now 8:35, and this meeting is adjourned. That's it. You like it? That was good.